Okay.
All
Morning,
right.
Bill.
Thank you, Sarah. We appreciate the lead in there. Welcome, everyone. I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us for the inaugural Ruritan Connect. And we hope to share some information with you today that could benefit you as you conduct your district conventions. And you may have some things you do differently. That's perfectly fine. But we just wanted to touch on some things that might be helpful for everyone. Uh, First of all, I'm Jeff Roadcap. I'm a national director in the Rockingham District in Virginia. And this is my first year as director. And I'm assigned to the Natural Bridge District, the Tall Corn, and the Great Plains. So I'd like to turn it over to our co-host, John.
I'm the play by. No, you're the play-by-play. I'm the color commentary. I'm John Beery. I am a second-year director. I serve the Ohio District as national director. I have been a Ruritan member since July 1st of 1977, which is longer than Sarah has been alive. And as we go through this, I'll preface this two things. I know that when my wife gets home, my dog is going to bark. So I'm going to try to mute my speaker when she gets home. But I look at this through different eyes than a lot of you do, probably than most of you do, because the Ohio District, we're going to talk about dynamic conventions. And the Ohio District is pretty unique. Sarah told us the other night that only 3 districts do both a spring banquet and a fall convention. So some of my comments will be maybe a little bit weird to you because I'm used to having 2 a year. But we'll go through those and hit the high points as we go. And I too would like to thank everybody for taking time out to be here with us this evening. And I hope that it's beneficial to you.
Awesome. Thanks, John. John and I had a lot of fun putting this information together, but we started with a plate that former or past National Director Melody Davis put together, some training slides about dynamic conventions, and that gave us a good foothold and a lot of the information that we should include. So we want to thank her for the efforts that she put into that. We do have a few ground rules. I think everybody's got their microphones and their cameras muted. However, if you do have a question, you can raise your hand on the program. So if hopefully everyone can do that. If not, just unmute and start hollering, and we'll listen in. We're going to be courteous to each other as we always are. We are Ruritans, so that's pretty easy to us. So with that, I think that's all the ground rules, isn't it, John, that we talked about?
I do believe so.
All right. Well, let's just jump right into it because we know everybody has other things they could do, but we do appreciate you coming to hear about district conventions. The first thing is don't be intimidated by a district convention. It may seem like a daunting task, but with the right team helping you, it's not a bad thing. I've been district governor twice, and I've helped other district governors do these, and we have a lot of fun doing them. So, and that's the bottom line. Have fun when you put these on, and you want the people attending to have fun. It's a time of year to celebrate the year's accomplishment across your district, and you can prepare yourselves for the upcoming year. And most importantly, it's a time for Ruritans to share in fellowship. I mean, that's one of our tenets, and we want to make sure that we're having fun, and doing so is with fellowship. There is no one size that fits all for doing a district convention, so just be flexible and go with the flow. The first things we need to ask ourselves when starting a convention is, what's the convention for? When are we going to do it? Where are we going to do it? Who's going to be there? And how are we going to fund it? So the first thing is, why are we going to do a convention? Well, first of all, we need to learn. That's where we conduct our training for our club officers. We share in our fellowship and also recognize the accomplishments for the year with our community service reports, Ruritan of the Year, and those type things. Um, Also, we'll have the district officer installation, and there may be entertainment. And hopefully, by the time everyone leaves, everyone is inspired and they're encouraged to keep pushing Ruritan forward. So, and the most important thing when you start, you got to know who your audience is, and you got to know their personalities and what kind of things they like. If you're a big district, that may not be as easy to determine, but we know who we are all Ruritans, so we know we're there for the same reason. So the first step is we want to learn. The officer training or other informational sessions can be conducted and should be conducted. And when I say informational sessions, a lot of people that attend a district convention, they don't need the training. So they're sitting around kind of bored. And this came about in my own district when we had the spouses or other club members coming and they had nothing to do. So we developed a Ruritan 101 um, session, and it just covers Ruritan in general terms. And we had a lot of good feedback from that. There's some people say, "Well, I didn't realize that what was going on with Ruritan, or that's what we're supposed to do." So it's a good thing to start with. Also, the new playbook that we've released. All right, we'll get those from time to time. The playbook. There's many topics in the playbook. You could conduct a session on any one of them. So take a look at that. You can talk about the growth in the district. The list is endless. When you're doing training, ensure the people sign in and they list which club they're with, what their position is, and let's see what else we got to have there, John. You need their position in their club. That way we can update MMS that they receive their training. Obviously, that's not important if you're doing Ruritan 101 or the playbook. Handouts are great. People like to have something tangible that they can take back with them and refresh their memories. And it just, they can share that information with their club if it's pertinent. And always allow time for questions.
There are, Jeff, I might add, there are people who have been in positions of leadership, maybe the same position of leadership for a number of years. Some of those folks don't necessarily follow the guidelines, the standard guidelines. It was brought up to me at one of our fall conventions that a treasurer wasn't giving a good report. He was giving the bank statement report rather than what was actually in the checkbook on that given day. And that's important. We need to make sure that our members know exactly what we've got. But that's just one example of procedural kind of things that each officer needs to know. Just because they've done it for a year or two or 10 or whatever doesn't mean that they've gotten it all right all the way along. So that the foundation needs to be laid out when we do that training. And I truly love to hear what you said about the other opportunities for other folks, because it may encourage spouses or friends or somebody else to come along who doesn't necessarily need the officer training, but it maybe opens us up to adding new people to our organization because they get to come and get a glimpse of what we're all about.
Right. And that's something, we can share what we've put together so we don't have to recreate that wheel. And if you have some suggestions, please offer them up because we like to make things better. Another important factor of the convention is the fellowship. And you all know that nothing is more or better than meeting someone face to face and getting to know them, understand their how their club works, or just get to know them as a person. Uh, I just got back from a 13-day trip out west to Iowa and Nebraska, and I went to the towns and I couldn't get a hold of anybody, and I just called them up when I got there. I couldn't get through, so I went to the bar, and the lady at the bar knew everybody on the roster. So, and she knew where they worked, so I went to their work, and I think they were surprised that I showed up. Um, but the same thing applies at a district convention. You'll never know them until they come to a convention and you get to meet them face to face,
I'm
and you can
not sure
share.
what that's. I'm not sure what that says about our membership when the lady at the bar knew everybody on the membership list. That yeah.
It is the Midwest. The Midwest usually got to have a bar. Well, it's not just a bar, but people come in there to have their supper and their lunch, and mostly all farming communities. So they come in and grab a beer and a burger, and then they head back out. So, all right. We also the convention's the perfect place and where most of us have our recognition. The first is the community service reports. We want to see what everyone has done in their community. The important thing when you recognize the community service reports, get through them pretty quickly. You might abbreviate. People tend to get bored with that because it seems like a lot of repetition. You might recognize your veterans, youth leaders, your cabinet members. A lot of us will give out certificates to cabinet officers. Not every district has the officers' roles filled, such as growth or convention chair, but that's all right. However it works in that district, it's nice to recognize them at the convention. You might recognize your outstanding president and secretaries or treasurers. You can do so with a listing in the placemat if they're custom made, or put them in a handbook, however you want to do it. Growth awards, you might have clubs that had some awesome growth this year and have met the 5+5 and 1. It's a good time to do that. Any foundation awards, there's multiple awards there. The Ruritan of the Year, Rudy Youth of the Year, and Ruritan of the Year. You can announce those winners. And I really encourage the districts to go out and ensure that the clubs are submitting those, and make it a little bit harder for the district. So they got to choose somebody and then forward that information to the nationals so they can compete there. John, just pipe in there if I'm missing anything.
No, I think you got everything there. I might add that I think it's important, especially as we promote our teens in our organization, that when we do training, if there are teens there that, again, don't need any of the individual office training, have a place for them to go to. Help them to know that they're important to our organization too, because they are absolutely not only our future, but our present. Um,
Yeah.
I'm 47 years into this. I'm not getting any younger, and I'm sure there's a bunch of us can commiserate with that. But we need to make sure that the
You're cutting out,
kids
John.
are or feel like they have something, and we need. I didn't catch you, Jeff.
I said you were cutting out there.
Oh,
You must be up in Ohio.
that's it. Sometimes we've got connections, sometimes we don't.
I saw how the highways were yesterday. I wanted to, well, I can't say what I wanted to do. All right. All right. Okay. We talked about learn, fellowship, recognition, and obviously we need to have the election and installation of our new district cabinet or district officers. And it's good to have the officers known ahead of time. but you can't open it up to the floor. Sometimes districts struggle in getting officers, so you can have the nominations to the floor as long as those people are willing. You will have a national representative there to install the new district officers, and it may not necessarily be your assigned national director, but most likely it will be. But just keep in mind it may not. And ensure that national rep gets the district governor lapel pin that they can have pinned on, whether the national rep does that or a spouse.
And know that when the district governor receives the excuse me, the certificates for the community service awards, there will be an envelope in that packet that says give to national rep, and that will have the pin in there. Once they've done it once, it's not a surprise that they're going to give you the envelope that's got the pin that they're going to end up getting placed on them. But it's the easiest way to get that lapel pin for the outgoing district governor.
Thank you. Entertainment. I know my district used to do entertainment. We would have somebody come and sing. Don't rely on the humor of your district governor or one of us national reps. Otherwise, you're going to get, dad jokes. Well, since I was out west, I got some corny jokes. However, if you have a good MC, they can probably help transition between activities if they got a good sense of humor. Obviously, when you have entertainment, you need to consider your location, the acoustics, the audio-visual availability, music, speaker, comedian. So if you're going to have entertainment, keep those things in mind. And I might mention now, the notes I'm going through, we will make available in a paper copy so you can look back and say, oh, yeah, I didn't think about that. Or if you have ideas, we certainly want to hear that. By the time the convention's done, you hope that the members leave that they're encouraged and they're inspired. I like to refer to it as getting re-blued. You want people to leave and say, I want to say, I really enjoyed that. I want to go again next year. So if everything runs smooth, and even if it doesn't, but you just go with the flow and have fun with it, people, they have a good time. All right, when to have it. This is always has become a new issue, or maybe it's always been an issue. Most conventions are the same time each year, in the fall, obviously. And what day of the week, what time of day. Typically, most people or most districts do the conventions on a Saturday, but really it's up to the members if they want to try to, if they're farming, let's say, out in the West, and they want to do it during the week. That's just up to what the membership wants. The time of day, this is what I have seen a lot of changes in. Ours used to run from the morning till late evening. And thank God we don't do that anymore. We usually finish up by mid-afternoon. So it depends on what all you have scheduled in your program. That kind of dictates the time. And you got to consider the travel time for the different members. They may be coming from 20 minutes away, or it might be 2 hours. So keep that in mind when you set this up, what time you start. And then again, you may have folks who don't like to drive after dark. So if you're doing an evening program, you want to consider that as well. Weather could be an option or an issue too. How long should the convention be? Like I said earlier, if you have it and it lasts all day, people are going to burn out and not want to come back, or they may leave early. When you set the date, do it as early as you can in the year so people can get it on their calendars. So you want to get that information out as soon as you can. And you can do so through the cabinet, to your zone governors, which should get it to the clubs. But it'd be nice if that doesn't happen. The district should try to, um, I don't know, maybe just reiterate it every time they meet. All right, let's see what else we got here. And also, you need to, when you set the date, let Ruritan National know, and also your assigned representative, so they can get it on their calendars. And National needs to know because if your representative can't make it, National's going to try to get someone there to fill in. And if you got clubs that you're not hearing from when you know you got your convention and you're getting reservations, follow up with them and make sure they know about it. And then maybe there's reasons that they can't come. Hopefully they're good ones, but we know how it goes. John?
Yeah, I would just like to, again, I'm in a unique situation because we do both a spring banquet in April and our fall convention in November. It really allows us to streamline both. The fall convention in November is a business meeting. It's a recognition and awards meeting. We don't have necessarily, we have had a youth choir come and sing. We've had, and you'll touch on that in a little bit, but we've had the scouts come and present colors. But the fall meeting is informational, and it's a business meeting. Whereas our spring banquet is simply it's kind of a party. Um, we do a limited amount of business. We do some planning, but we have a nice dinner. Um, it's just an enjoyable time. We have a longer entertainment there. It may not work for everybody, and we know, Jeff and I know very well in Ruritan, there is no one size fits all. You're going to hear that a bunch from us. But if you do split them up, if you can get somebody, if you can get your district involved, and starting it may be very difficult. But I've taken young guys to a fall convention before. My club is historically a very young club. I'm 72 years old, and I am the grandpa in my club. In some clubs, I wouldn't be that old, but these guys like to come and do truck and tractor pulls, and most of them are 50 and under. Most, I mean most. And I drugged four of them kicking and screaming one time to a fall convention, and it was one of the longer days. I don't know that we had a meal, a dinner meal, but it was just long and boring. And four of them went with me, and I was really proud. I was honored that these four young guys went with me. They were in their 20s then, and they said, "Don't ever ask me to go to one of those again." So we have to know our audience. Our spring banquet really serves a probably an older crowd who comes and has a social time. And in Ohio, we've got people traveling up to 4 hours, even if we're centrally located, because we go from Lake Erie to West Virginia to Indiana, and it can be 4 hour trip. So their drive to and their drive from is pretty substantial. So do consider, I would really encourage you to consider trying both because you can cut them a little bit shorter each one of them.
So at your spring banquet, what do you do? Barbecue Buckeyes or?
Barbecue Buckeyes. You'll have to come up. You'll see.
All right. I'd like to do that.
Okay.
All right. All right. When you think also about thinking the convention, where are you going to have it? Uh, it could be a school, a church, a hotel, a Ruritan building, from one of the clubs, a community building. The list is endless. It'd be great to have it centrally located. So the travel time, like John talked about here a little bit ago, makes it a little easier for everyone or everybody has the same amount of pain. A lot depends on the districts. Out west, they're far apart, or the Midwest. You get back east here, it's not quite as bad, but it just depends. That the where could change from year to year to try to make it fair from one section of your district to another. And also, some of the locations maybe only allow certain type of activities, and they may not allow raffles if you do a raffle, or if you have an auction, or certain entertainment. So keep that in mind. And ensure it can accommodate all of the activities of the convention. So if you plan on, well, when you're planning your training sessions, make sure you got enough spaces that are separate and not in the one big room, and you're trying to do it in sections. You want to have an individual room where those training sessions can take place. That way it's not disruptive. And make sure the furniture is appropriate. If you need audio visual or extra furniture, just ensure that that's available. All right. Who should be doing this? Well, the district governor leads the effort in his cabinet, and it's good to appoint a chair for the convention if you can. And it just takes the pressure off the district governor. And the chair can select people to help them organize and coordinate and execute this convention. So it's good to know an individual's strengths and weaknesses. Some people want to volunteer for everything, and they may not be real good at it. So keep that in mind. Or you've got someone that volunteers for everything because they are good, but they may be spread too thin.
And if you get a good one, make sure that you get on your knees. I did that when I was lieutenant governor, coming in to be the governor, and I literally at a cabinet meeting got on my knees and begged her to continue on. And that was in 2018, the first time I was governor, and she's still doing it. She does a phenomenal job. She does both the fall convention and the spring banquet, and she's amazing. But she doesn't try to do it all herself either. She knows how to enlist others to help her along the way, and both I think are very successful. We do another thing that I will separate just a little bit. We do have a fundraiser at our fall convention. We have a silent auction and a live auction, and we don't do that at the spring banquet. The spring banquet, we have our zones and district governor and me as a national rep. A bunch of us bring door prizes, and we have drawing for door prizes. That's done at the spring banquet. But we do the two auctions, both the silent auction and the live auction. And I will tell on the guy because he's on this call. He's our Ohio District Governor, and I notoriously on the silent auction when I am done, and I'm sure he's giggling like a little schoolgirl right now. When I go to pay for my items at the end of the auction, silent auction, it costs me more than what I bid on. And then I turn and look, and I see him standing in the back, smiling like a Cheshire cat because he put my name down on some items that gag items. Well, last year it backfired on him, and it was really fun. My son was there, one of my other younger guys were there, and they put his name on things. My point of the whole thing is have fun with it. You can really have a good time, and people will look forward to going back and maybe sticking somebody with something that they didn't necessarily think they were going to buy. We just have a good time.
You're giving me ideas for the national convention. Anyway, I digress. All right. Let's see where we at. All right. How are we going to conduct the convention? How is it paid for? And this varies quite a bit from district to district as well. And people can pay when they show up at the door. The district may hold fundraisers throughout the year to help pay for the cost or offset the cost for those members. You can have 50-50 raffles. The club could fund it. I know my club will pay for whoever goes to the district convention, especially the officers if they need training, but we'll pay for anybody that wants to go.
You can sell ads in a program booklet.
Yeah. And our district does a program book as well, and the clubs go out and sell, and they can get a kickback from what they sell. And if they sell enough, it doesn't cost them anything. So, I mean, there's just multitudes of ways to do that. All right, I think that covers all of how it can be funded. I mean, might be different ways that other districts do it. I just didn't know all of them. So, a good way to start once you have the basics done of the what, when, where, who, and how, create a little checklist or whatever uh, of some of the items you need to prepare. Your flyers, if you're gonna, the date and your location, get your flyers out. It might even just be emails, but sometimes having flyers available, it's tangible and people can see it and remind them again so they don't forget. If you need tickets, our district uses tickets and they send them to the clubs, and what they don't use, they send back. Registration. Uh, it's good to have someone at the entrance of the convention where you're having it to greet people and also to direct them where to go. And it helps them get a head count as things are being finalized at the very end. It's good to have name tags available at the registration table. People come in, if they don't have a name, there's so many people, I can't keep track of names. I don't know about John, but I forget who he is sometimes.
He knows because we talked about this afternoon. It People like to be recognized by their name, and I can't remember. I can remember numbers forever, but a name, if you tell me, if I can't relate it to something immediately, I forget it almost as immediately. So name tags it's a nice thing,
Yeah.
especially during a meal time, be it just a snack time in the morning or a luncheon that you're having, to be able to sit with somebody else, maybe that you don't know. And I strongly encourage you to sit with people that you don't know, so that there are no strangers. We don't want strangers in Ruritan. And to be able to address people by their name, people appreciate that. I know I do, and I'd rather look at a name tag than get it wrong. I think that's about the worst thing I could do.
Yeah. And you can sit with people you don't like. Maybe you begin to like them.
Yeah, I had my
So
doubts about you in the beginning, Roadcast.
I know. I'm kind of that way. My wife tells me that sometimes. So we know what money and looks. I forgot to mention when you advertise, it's important to let people know if it's going to be formal or informal, or if you're going to have a theme of some type, so they know how to dress when they come. Um, it may help them; they may come however they want, but if you just, it's good to let them know. And speaking of theme, if you have a theme and you're doing the setup, you need to know if the venue you're using, are they going to help you set up? Are they going to decorate? Or is that something you need to accommodate and make sure your volunteers are there? So kind of keep that in mind as you're planning. You're going to have centerpieces, flowers, tablecloths. Um, you need a good head count for a head table. Are you going to have a head table? Any special tables, POW MIA table or the missing man table? Are you going to have that? Are you going to have name tents or name cards at the head table? The flow of traffic of where you want people to go. And that's something that's real important when they're doing setup for the whole convention, is have plenty of signage. That is something that we've probably all been to. And it's like, where do I go? I don't know. So have good signage. If you don't have enough signage, it's good to have a sergeant of arms that can help direct people, or you can call them sergeant of arms. It's just a volunteer, and have them help out and tell people where they need to go at what time. And when people are registering, it's a good time to probably give them a copy of the program, so they can see what's coming up and when, and they're not just guessing. Usually the program's in the booklet or something else, but they may not get until the dinner. Um, but that's why I'm thinking just go ahead and give it to them at the registration table. It could just be a card. Let's see. I talked about make sure you have extra tables and chairs. And are you going to use a podium? Microphones and flags. You want if you. I think it's critical you have your flags there: American flag and the Ruritan flag, and any other flags that you need or that you feel like you'd like to have. But you should have the American flag and the Ruritan flag. You should have a script that the district governor can follow, and if you have an MC to conduct it, which I highly recommend. I know my district hasn't done it, but I think like to see them do that in the future. If they can find someone who's good on their feet, they're witty, they can keep engaged with the audience. I think an MC would be great. So make sure you have a thorough script for them to follow. It just makes things flow so much better. It's like having notes for a Ruritan Connect. And the programming agenda, I mentioned that a little earlier. Hand that to them when they're registering. Let's see. Some of the district conventions may include a flag ceremony. Excuse me. It could be done by Scouts, American Legion, VFW, ROTC groups, um, whatever, whoever you like to do that. They're not required, obviously. It's just something that adds a nice flair. Have the people arranged for your singing the verse of America, the Pledge of Allegiance, and an invocation. It's good to have that lined up, and that should be part of the script for the district governor and the MC, so they know who they're looking for.
Jeff, if I can, I'd like to back up just a second. As far as setup, and this one is something that is very near and dear to me because I am, even though I'm not in Ruritan years, I guess we've got dog years, we've got Ruritan years. I am severely hearing disabled. So please make sure, not just for me, but for our older folks, make sure that they can hear. It doesn't matter whether it's in one of our meetings in church, wherever it happens to be, where people are there and want to be part of the whole deal. Make sure they can hear. It's really important. It really is. It will be appreciated.
I agree, and I've tried to make that a point in this project or this program, because I did audio visual at James Madison University, and I don't know how many venues I go to since then or during that time. And if you're sitting in the back, it echoes. You can't hear. The people up front hear fine, or it's too loud for them. So it's important that they have a good system. And I know it's not always um, available. So we just have to make sure we speak up or move around as we're speaking at a district convention. I mentioned earlier the POW MIA table. A lot of people know it as the missing man table. Being a veteran, I like to always have that at a convention or any kind of a formal um, event like this. And that may or may not include the description of the missing man table of all the items that are placed there. If you do decide to do that, if you have a veteran in the Ruritans, just talk to them. They can help you find the items that are necessary. And I'd be certainly happy to put a list together and include it with this if someone wants it. Another important aspect that I think every district probably does is we have a memorial service for those Ruritans that we've lost in the preceding year. That can include or be conducted in many ways. It can be use scripture, poems, or any verbiage that's appropriate. Items included with the memorial service can be candles, a bell, flags, flowers, name cards, just different things that are very appropriate for that moment. And I know it's awful hard sometimes when you're planning. You get a list of all the people that you know. It's good to check the days prior to the convention to see if there are any others that might have passed, so you can make sure you mention them during the program.
And at minimum, make sure that you ask the audience if there are any that were missed, because the worst thing that you want to do is leave someone out, because there will be hurt feelings. Jeff, if I can, I would like to, again, I'm going to back up just a little bit. Jeff and I talked this afternoon. We did a little run through on this, and we talked about this sergeant at arms thing. The true sergeant at arms, I guess, used to be the guy that made sure where people went, that they get there on time, that if there was a drunken fight, that he was the guy, or they were the person, he or she, that would take care of that. In the Ohio district, we have an older gentleman who is our sergeant at arms. He loves the title. He loves to do what he does. He is not physically capable of doing a whole lot of things, but he every and we do, again, we do the two. We do both the fall convention and the spring banquet. You can rest assured he will be there. He will have the Ruritan flag, the American flag, the Ohio district banner there. It gives him a purpose. And when we're divvying up jobs, again, we do the silent auction and the live auction. We have people, specific people, who come and help make sure that when items are brought in for the silent auction, they're registered. We know who provided them. They put out sheets for people to write their name or number. If you've got a Dave Winget in your district, you want to make sure that they can't just write your name. And so we went to number, and that backfired on me too. But involve as many people as you can. People need to, if they have a purpose to be there, they'll be more excited to be there.
Right. And it kind of reverts back to member retention that's in the playbook. When you involve people, they have more skin in the game, and they like that. I mean, we all like that. We want to have a little piece. Sometimes we don't want a big piece. We just want to do a little bit along with everyone else, and it all comes together, and we're a lot happier. Let's see. Do we have a hand raised?
You did.
I
Kathy
did.
Newcomb had her hand raised.
Okay, Kathy, go ahead.
Two things. One, with the memorial service. And by the way, I'm in Melody's district.
Great.
With the registration form, there's a sheet that goes with it to list the any veteran and any deceased member from that club. And we try to tell them that even if the club isn't registering to come, to at least return that sheet so we could recognize those that have passed and those that are military.
Oh, that's a neat idea.
The other thing was, she does pretty well with themes. Like this year, we are community heroes, and our colors match the Teenage Mutant Turtle, since the turtle is our pin this year. So we're asking everybody to pick one of the 4 colors and wear that color. It was
Right,
something else, but I don't remember.
right.
Um,
Well, see, that's great. Thank you. I mean, that's a good idea to send something out for your veterans and expect a form. Usually, I know emails will fly about, but if they had a form and negative replies are great. So I
this
guess
year
that,
she actually did a Google form, which is digital,
yeah,
and I handed out the paper forms at the summer zone meeting, and any club that didn't go to the summer zone meeting, I mailed them a handwritten letter saying that we missed them and we hope to see them at the district convention, and that I included the handouts that we did at the zone meeting and their registration form.
right. Yeah, it's always good to remember there's clubs out there that they don't use their computer. They don't use a computer. They don't have them. So we always have to consider all forms of communication, and we revert back to the USPS. Um, but it gets it done. Well, thanks for that idea. I like that. All right. We were at Sergeant Arms, flag ceremony, memorial service, and we talked about training in depth earlier. I talked about signage. Signage is important for training so people know which room to go to. So, but if you got a sergeant at arms that can point them, just keep those kind of things in mind. It just makes it easier for those attending, and they don't have to ask so many questions. Some of these conventions start out, it might be a while before they have their meals. So having light refreshments when they show up, whether it's coffee, punch, some cookies, I guess a lot depends on the time of day. It's good to have those kind of things available to keep people pacified, so to speak. Just to might come hungry, they might have skipped a meal to show up on time. All right, you may have outside. Someone say something.
Yeah, I would interject. I don't know if somebody else did, but I'd take an opportunity here. When we do our training in my district, we have presidents and vice presidents together. We have secretaries, sometimes secretaries and treasurers. We try to get as many people involved, directors. Um, I don't think there's any training that needs to go beyond 45 minutes. If you go beyond that, it's just too long and too boring. But with that said, I strongly urge that you save time or allow time for people to ask questions. We had great discussions last year at our president's, vice president's training session, last several years. And especially for the vice presidents that or the presidents who haven't been before. It happens sometimes that a president will come in who wasn't even a vice president. I did that 2 or 3 times in my club. So it's good to get that information, but it shouldn't be so long. I think you can accomplish everything, still give time for questions, and then have a potty break when you're done, and you'll still be done in less than an hour.
Yeah. Hey, I think your wife's home.
I think you're right.
I hear the alarm going off. All right. Thanks, John. I forgot to mention that, but that's why there's 2 of us. And when you're doing training, that you got to have the right trainer, um, someone with the right personality who's good at it. They can abbreviate things or go in much detail as needed. They can read their audience, and they may poll the group at the beginning. How many have served in this role before, and that's fine. Um, and you can highlight the changes that have come down for that role, and then you might start quizzing them about how they're doing certain aspects of their role and share that. And
And
that'll
when
usually
you're
kill 45 minutes.
Yeah, when you're there in person, you can read faces too. You can tell if
Yes.
somebody has a question on something, they don't quite understand that, or yeah, you see them nodding, yeah, that worked well for me. and share. There is, and we all know there is. It doesn't matter whether it's a convention, whether it's a club meeting, whatever. There is no one size fits all. So we need to be able to know our audience, to be able to read our audience, and to satisfy their needs and to educate them as best we possibly can.
I guess I'm gonna throw that cookie cutter away. I thought everything worked for the same everywhere. Heck, I'm just messing with you, John. All right. Some it's good to if you want to have an outside vendor um, at the convention, but a lot of times you'll have a Ruritan national candidate, and usually they're allowed time at the business meetings to do their 2-minute spiel, however long the district allows, as long as everything is equal for the candidates. So any other vendors, Hunters for the Hungry, whatever you guys want to do. Meals, like I said, it depends on the time of day. It could be in the morning, so you want to have some snacks, or you may have a heavier breakfast. I don't know, lunch or supper. It's up to whatever you want to do. Obviously, it all comes down to expenses, and you got to make sure you got the supplies to provide those meals. Entertainment, we talked about that. Music, comedian, auction, raffles, a talent show. And I asked John, I said, talent show? What in the world are you talking about a talent show? So what did you tell me on that?
I don't remember. I made up something stupid, I'm sure.
Oh, well, okay. All right. And you might have an inspirational speaker. Um, it's good encouragement. I know at our leadership conference this summer, we had a great speaker, very dynamic, very dynamic. I like that. Um, he was very inspiring. So you could always go that route. Awards and certificates, or the award ceremony. Make sure you get your certificates and plaques. You can have them in folders. Do you have all your pens, gifts? Again, the award ceremony for community service, you might want to abbreviate it to move things along quickly. Or if you want to drag it out, if everything else went too quick. I might add on the community service reports, I know Craig had sent something out recently about getting those in at least 2 weeks or 3 weeks ahead of your convention so he can get those turned around and sent back to you. So let's make sure we respect the national office and the amount of work that they're getting this time of year. And I already talked about the installation ceremony. Make sure you got the pen available. Another nice thing to do is have a gift for your outgoing governor. Or you might have someone else in the cabinet or in the district that you might want to recognize with a special gift. So it'd be a good time to do something in that time frame.
Jeff and I talked about this earlier at our spring banquet. I can't remember if it was last year or the year before. We had a gentleman who had been our Ohio District Secretary for 25 years, and he's got Parkinson's, and he's just not able to do the things that he used to be able to do. But my buddy Dave Winget, who buys me things, he's not a jerk all the time, most of the time, but not all the time. But he came up with an award for this fella, and he was so moved because he was recognized, and it brought him to tears. And his health is slipping. And don't ever in your life regret not doing something. Make sure that you tell people that you love them. Make sure you tell them that you appreciate them, and don't limit it to just your family and close friends. Hopefully our close friends are in Ruritan, but it made a giant impact in this man's life. And Dave was the guy that came up with the idea, but I got the hug from it, and it meant a lot. So do think about recognizing people along the way. And it doesn't have to be in my own club. Every year we do a supporter to our club. So if you've got somebody within your own local area who has been a great supporter, spend $45-50 on a plaque. It pays great dividends. Tell people that you appreciate them.
Obviously we're not all here to win awards, certificates, but it goes a long way when you do recognize them at this level. It goes a long way, and that's a responsibility, I think, of all leaders, is to recognize their people. That's the fun stuff. And another thing to include is having a designated photographer. I know a lot of times I've seen a governor's spouse walking around with their camera. It could be their phone camera because they take good pictures, or they might have a professional there. But it's good to get that information captured, and you can send it into the local newspaper, send it to Ruritan National, whatever you want to do. Send it to the people you're recognizing, so they have something. So John says no one size fits all. Remain flexible, but most of all, have fun. I mean, you got to make these things fun to encourage people to want to come back. You can't always have filet mignon at the meal. Hot dogs are fine, I'm sure. But anyway, that's it. And the formal or written stuff that we had captured. We'd love to hear your ideas, suggestions. We're ready for any questions that you may have jotted down. So feel free to raise a hand or just pipe in. Okay, Mark.
Yes. Off subject of conventions, our national director had broached the idea of combining District 27 and the Alabama Georgia North Alabama districts together. I don't know if they've heard anything about that up at National.
You mean do the conventions at the same time?
No, combining the districts, because the districts, I only have 3 clubs down here left.
Okay.
And I don't know how many. I think they only got 3 up in out in Georgia and North Alabama. And
that's a thing for another conversation. I don't know where that's going with that. So that's a little beyond what we are prepared to even have any information on right now. Okay. Anybody else? Oh, we're losing people.
I'd like to take the opportunity to thank everybody for taking an hour. They'll never get back again. Spending it with us. Thank
Attorneys who prosecute the offenders.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And if you have any other information, please send it to us via National, and we can always get back to you.
All right, thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, y'all. Thank you for what you're doing.
Hey, Mike.